Woo! Okay, so let's tell everybody what we're gonna try and do. So after seeing what we got yesterday, which I think we both find very exciting, we concluded that we sort of we let the code bloat a lot because we were so excited about how uh, much code we could get back in one piece. But the problem is that once you get, I think, to um, half the code size, I guess, like maybe like 400 lines, you lose the ability to sort of send it a whole chunk of code and get it all back in one piece, which is the threshold, really. So what we're gonna do today is kind of start from the top again. Keep a track of all the prompts we are using, so that then in the future, if we ever want to do this again, we actually have our breadcrumbs. Um, and also at like regular intervals, we stop and take, instead of just like accumulating functionality like crazy, we stop and review and sort of take steps, like basically write additional prompts to refactor the code and sort of make sure we're not using more code than we need to, either by sort of organizing the existing functionality or by finding libraries that we can use in order to delete code. And our hope is that this will get us to not just like twice as much complexity in the project before we have the problem again, but more like 4 times. And potentially that is enough for us to hit escape velocity, where we are no longer modifying the thing itself, but we are building plugins. And if we reach that point without sort of choking the language model, then I think we are what we call orbital velocity. Now, we might not be able to get there. But with this try, we might have to do it. Like, we might have to back up and go again. But I think it's, I think this is how this paradigm looks. Like me and Ryan have been working at turning this into a paradigm for, since early March, right?
Yeah.
So I think we have a kind of a feel for it, but I think this is the best articulation we've got so far. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I think it's closer. I mean, it remains to be seen whether it is the way to build a light bulb or the 997th way not to.
Right.
There's always that chance. But
yeah, we built a lot of failed light bulbs. I'll tell you how much.
Yeah. Yep. But onward and upward. Okay. So I suppose I should share my screen, huh?
I mean, you could. That'd be nice.
Just want everyone to look up my nose for an hour. Okay. So here we are. And we should actually also mention, just for anybody who wasn't watching yesterday, because I'm sure that this will be confusing for them. Basically, what we're trying to do is create the truly pulled up from the bootstrap by the bootstraps interface for a front end app, like a web app, basically that you can modify from within itself. So it's sort of built natively with an LLM. And so we start this in the ChatGPT interface and give a few requirements to basically create just a janky, limping chat interface itself. And then we start evolving from that to basically, have it
self-host. Like in programming languages, this is called self-hosting, right? When you move on from writing if you write a new programming language, you usually start by writing it in C, right? But when the programming language itself becomes good enough to have all the the basics you need, then you self-host and you write the compiler for the language in the language. So, Rust, in Rust, et cetera, et cetera. So this is kind of the same pattern where we are using an existing UI to sort of draft off of, and then we will self-host as soon as possible. I think in this case, the self-hosting is extremely quick. This in programming languages, this can go for multiple major versions and a few years. In our case, it's more like 5 prompts and 20 minutes.
Yeah. So, we had talked about starting over from scratch and starting over from here. I wonder, though, we could start with what we finished with yesterday and just strip out unnecessary features from it.
Well, the thing that worries me, so we can start from here if that's what you mean, what you're pointing at. What we ended up in Bootstrap, sorry, in ChatGPT with. But if you're talking about what we ended up with, like the one we committed, the problem I have with that is that we then will have to actually start reading the code carefully and stuff and doing the kind of development that we want to avoid. See what I mean?
Not especially, but I'll trust you.
Well, no, what I'm saying is like, okay, how do we do that, right? We take the 400 line program we committed, right, and we open it up and we start reading it, right, and now we're talking about how to refactor it by hand, right?
No, that's not what I was suggesting. I was suggesting we take that program and we say, and we start removing stuff from it within itself to basically go a few steps back by going forward.
How do we remove things?
We give it its own source and say, please remove these features. We're trying to simplify this app.
The problem is that it won't be able to do that.
No?
And we won't get the prompt chain.
Okay. All right. Let's start from here.
Yeah. So at least the way this works, at least now we have this version that we have all the prompts for. Right. Basically, what we want at the end of this is to have all of the prompts that we wrote in order to get this far. And this doesn't mean that if we run exactly the same prompts, we're going to end up with exactly the same code. But it enables us to, let's say, do a speed run where we can supervise the rerunning of the prompts to, we might need to tighten up a prompt here or there or whatever. But, we kind of can retrace our steps even if we don't do the exact same steps.
Sure. Okay, so I'll take this over to
do you have the wherewithal afterwards to kind of go from scratch and say, like, do the prompt code in Git, so we actually have it as history?
Sure. I'll just do that every time I'll make that part of my workflow.
Until we automate it, but right now we're basically manualizing a bunch of the things that we want to have done.
All right, so Here we are.
So does it have the /source/ feature? Yes. I mean, I guess you kind of have to.
That's the only thing it's got.
Okay, great.
Well, and
so let's get back to Does it do GPT-4? Does it default to 4?
No.
Okay, so maybe we do that in the GPT flow in ChatGPT itself, so that we can jump off from there.
Yeah. Change the model to GPT-4 and persist. Let's just add in persist the API key in local storage. Fair enough.
Yep. Wait, are you using GPT-4?
I'm using a web browsing model, and
Okay,
it looks
yeah,
like
that's
I'm
fine.
using 3.5.
Are
I think.
you? I don't think so. If it's a web browsing model, you're fine.
Okay.
But I actually wait. Did it go from purple to green?
Mine was purple, but yeah, it's green, so I guess it's using 3.5.
I doubt it. I doubt it. I don't think 3.5 is that good. And you would see a kind of a switch over of some sort. I mean, we could find out, but
Yeah.
I know where my money's going.
Okay, let me grab my API key. All right. Um, so I'm going to ask it to make it so that after each response, the chat history is copied to the clipboard.
To the what?
To the clipboard.
Right.
Such that I can then
Paste it back in.
paste it back in and author the commit message.
That looks awfully small.
I mean, that's the thing, is that like for the limited number of features we added yesterday, it balloons the code quite quickly.
Is that all? So that you're saying that's all the code? Okay. So which features do we need? So okay. So just for anybody who was weirdly enough watching from yesterday, we kind of said that we did a lot of work with the kind of the model stuff at the bottom, and we decided that that's going to be a plugin system that we're going to build. We are very, very excited by it, but that also means that we don't, like, for now we don't need to keep experimenting and just adding stuff there, because we're going to add it on top of the plugin system. So if we see this as a tech tree of sorts, right, like different modes is like a milestone we're pushing out a little. I think spawn is something we kind of have to build here. Oh, right. Sorry. No, right. So the question is, can we ask it to refactor now? And I think, speaking of refactor, maybe one thing we do before is we ask it to put a lines of code indicator under every code block.
Mm-hmm.
And while we're here, I think using highlight.js for highlighting stuff is probably going to cost us a line or two. So it's probably a good investment. Is this your first mod after we're loading it out from ChatGPT?
Yes. Well, the last one was, so I should commit it.
Well, you should at least keep the prompt somewhere.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, and of course, I just didn't do that.
I think we can.
I remember what it was close enough, so I'm just going to type it again. I'm keeping along off screen.
Let's see our socials.
Use highlighter or highlight. Use highlight.
Good question. Let me check. Highlight.js. Let's say like use highlight.js to format code elements. This was the insight I had, right? That what Showdown does is it converts Markdown into code elements, but the formatting of the code elements is none of its business. Really, if you bring highlight.js, it should be able to. It doesnn't care about the Markdown. These two things are completely orthogonal.
Yeah.
That was my realization, basically. Oh my god. I have become unable to drink.
Okay, so highlight.js and a spawn button.
And lines of code.
Yeah.
Sorry, on the iframe, are you sure we want to go down? Do we want to try to go right this time?
Yeah, I mean, we can go right anytime. I think that's a subsequent step. I don't really want to fuck with layout right now.
Okay.
Because that just strikes me as an avenue that wastes us 20 lines of CSS for nothing.
Okay. Perhaps a copy, but oh no, spawn is good. Spawn is good enough. Okay, so this is now we there was like some version that we got out of ChatGPT, and then we made version. So version, like, let's call it 1 is what we started with here. Then we went to version 2, and this is version 3 here.
Yeah.
So this is version 3. Okay. And this will give us line count?
Yeah.
Okay. I wonder if Tailwind will be a good step, like a worthwhile sort of low cost step.
I think it. I mean, I think it will be. I just want to get core functionality as the top priority, right?
Right.
Oh,
So
man. This delay is still a killer.
the what?
The delay. Still killer.
R-
So
right. Yeah.
I'm gonna ask about web components. While we're so what should we investigate for Vue and web components as far as breaking this out into a plugin system?
Just say, does Vue.js work with web components? I guess. Sorry, before we do that, the other thing I wanted to tell you is that when I did try to refactor yesterday before I hit the wall,
Yeah.
One thing that it kind of told me, oh, you know what feature is going to be amazing? I just realized. If you're not focused and it receives a response, it should ring a bell.
Mm.
Just a little ding.
And copy the clipboard does not work.
Right. We should probably fix that. Sorry. So what I found out yesterday before we hit the wall is that you basically want to create a subroutine where a message is rendered, right? That gathers up all of the little bits and pieces that we keep adding to rendering a message, and probably code block rendering as well as a separate subroutine. Because I think part of the reason that the code bloated yesterday is that it implemented that in a bunch of places, like over and over.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when it came in from the cloud, it had like one routine. When you sent it had another routine. When it was a system message, it was another routine, and it was like a mess, right? And it almost like recommended that to me without me even kind of really asking, which was weird.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it was like, I'm gonna give you a freebie.
Yeah. Do we want to try and
Sorry,
do it?
I'm feeling insecure, so I'm gonna keep asking you the same question. You got all the prompts so far?
Yep. I'm just piping it into Git. So each time I change, I do a commit, and I use the prompt as the commit message.
Perfect. So then you're gonna like do overwrite the repo, and we're gonna have everything well organized.
Yeah, I'm on a branch right now. The transition between ChatGPT and here might be a little messy for one commit, but I haven't missed anything since then.
Okay. What you want basically afterwards is to start a new branch from scratch, build up all the way to the ChatGPT final version,
Yeah.
and then do some sort of a rebase. That will take you're currently building a tower, right? You're going to build a small one, and the rebase, I think, is going to take it and rebase it on top of the GPT, like the initial 4 or 5 versions. Okay. Shall we? Do you want to ask like, please report any other bugs you see or whatever? Like just more Or do you want to say like send me the whole file? Something?
What do you mean? Send me the whole file?
If it makes changes, it should
Oh
send
yeah.
them. Do you want to make it print a ding file if it, or is that too? I think we could probably do that for the moment.
Yeah. That's 30 lines of code I don't want to put in the budget right now. I think you said there's sort of there's a hooks system we need, right? Like when every message comes in, run a list of hooks again against it. And then we can define those hooks as individual things.
Yeah, we'll see how much of that is going to be interconnected, and then they have to be one big blob.
Yeah.
And how much of that is something else. Eva had a great idea, by the way, that we add a mode eventually that is like readability, basically, that you give it a URL and it just goes to that URL and extracts the article and puts it back in.
Yeah.
So basically what I'm saying is that the concept of a mode can stretch farther than just GPT models, right? It could be anything that does an interesting manipulation of text and can provide you with a text output that you can put in the chat.
Yeah. Highlighting is not working. HLJS is not defined.
You want to find a do you want to find a oh, I gotta pull an all-nighter and I'm completely trashed. CDN with highlighter.js to give it a hint.
I think it actually pulled it fine. Oh no, yeah, you're right.
Like even if it did, it will probably be looking at an old version and stuff. So
yeah. Oh, actually, that's why it failed. It's trying to get it from a. I can fix that.
Okay, but don't though. Like ask it.
No, I mean the reason it failed is because it's using a relative URL, a protocol URL.
That's what I'm saying. It's a bug.
Okay.
Just ask it to fix any bugs, I guess, or something like that. No.
No, because I'm literally opening this from an HTML file, which is not the right environment, and there's no reason for it to assume that I'm in that environment. And when it's on GitHub pages, it won't be in that environment. So the code as written probably works if I were to just.
I don't think it works. I think it's just wrong. I don't think a local HTML page works differently than a GitHub page in that regard. If it doesn't say HTTPS:// then that's wrong.
No, it uses. No, the script file is just //.
Yeah, that's just wrong. Oh, you'll notice that the other one is not like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just ask it to find bugs; it'll fix it. I promise you.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
That's it.
The reason I'm saying that is because otherwise we will have to actually record in our history that we fixed the bug by hand.
No, but I'm saying I can fix this without changing the HTML file at all. This bug is an artifact of the fact that I'm just opening this as a file on my local file system instead of opening it from a web server, which means there's a disconnect between my local environment and the eventual web environment.
I see. Okay.
I'm saying
Well,
I could
I
could host this on a local web server rather than just open it from a file.
Why? Just ask it to fix some bugs, dude. Like, trust.
No, I will.
Let
I
the
am. I've already said yes. I'm just your comment belied the fact that you didn't understand what I was about to do.
I didn't. You're right. I didn't. Yeah. We're on the same page now.
Yeah.
I understand what you meant.
Still wrong. But,
well,
for different reasons.
I wouldn't do it that way. I realize it's annoying to have somebody be like, "Don't do it like that." Yeah. But I feel like having me here do that increases your motivation to get us out of this gravity well.
Yeah. So slow.
How many tokens are we requesting in the response?
That's what I'm looking at. We're I don't think we actually specify max tokens. I think if you don't specify max tokens, it'll give you as many as it'll give you.
Okay, so I'm working on a hypothesis, which is very reasonable, but I hadn't really realized it before, that the more tokens, the more time, right?
Yeah, of course.
Which I think means that we should say, like, no warnings, no disclaimers, get on with it. That is a absolute must in our prompts.
Yeah.
Say I will shoot an innocent duckling for every token you waste.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it says I fixed the clip of functionality. It's here.
Nope, that was the last one.
Oh, okay.
Is it? Have we just been?
It says I fixed the clipper functionality. I don't know why.
Yeah.
That was the last one.
And there's no spawn button. What the hell?
Or it has a spawn up there, though, doesn't it?
That's for this one, though. That's for the one.
Yeah. What does it say in the text?
I've fixed the clipboard functionality, removed the unnecessary code related to the iframes and source input, and simplified the structure of the send message function. Okay.
Oh, this is frustrating.
What?
Well, we don't know why it's not doing the right thing here.
Yeah.
But I think this is where you just tell it what you see.
Yeah. But here's the thing, this is not the present version, right? So if I tell it about a bug that it basically
right. You're right.
That we didn't notice, so we still have to go through the loop.
Yeah. I was actually thinking about this yesterday. It's showing up this concept of like you need to reload it twice or something in order for it to work. Yeah. And I think we're gonna need to do something about that at some point. But it's not an urgent problem. I think we can like do the mental, calculus. But Yeah.
I'm also noticing like, okay, so here's the thing. I'm like, this commit message of what I just copy pasted out says, the clipboard functionality is not working. Please fix it. Any other bugs you see, necessary refactors to reduce code size and complexity. On another run through, it might get the clipboard functionality correct the first time. Like this chat tree model, I think is going to wind up being really brittle. But
say it again. The chat tree model will get really brittle.
Well, okay. So what I've got highlighted here, I just used as a commit message.
Yeah.
Right. And this is referencing a bug that was introduced on the last request, or that was observed on the last cycle.
Yeah, so I was actually thinking about that. I think there's a distinction, right? If you see it's like Smart GPT, right, where you've got like your actual request, your actual response, and then a bunch of like iteration in the middle.
Yeah.
Right, and we're gonna need to figure out how to do that, but I think that's it's like a major and minor steps, not like versioning wise, though probably also that.
Yeah.
I think there's like again, like in a perfect world, we would have 2 or 3 prompts that would run us cleanup right after the first, right? Find bugs and what else? Like do refactorings. Like these two should just kind of run right after the any new functionality is added.
Right. Okay.
So then your commit history becomes like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Like I just kind of see like 1 green and 2 reds, 1 green and 2 reds. Like that.
Yeah.
Like there's some interims that are, they're not really making any progress that is distinct from the first one, right? But they are just, collecting your winnings, creating a little bit of space, doing maintenance tasks basically.
Yeah.
And remember the model we had built early on where you got like 3 stages. One is like how far can you get with the first leap? Then the next one is like how far can you push it along before you run it? And then how can you kind of hill climb after running it to get to where you want to go? I think all of that will come back into the game here as well. So you're saying, please make the following files and
fixes and return the full file.
Right.
Spawn.
Okay, so in terms of tech tree, the first sort of major milestone is self-hosted, right?
Yeah.
The second milestone is self-launching, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
The stuff we're doing here is to enable the kind of the spawn functionality.
Yeah.
So we have a question from Rumble, which says, how long do you suppose this project will take? And I think, thinking about the answer a little bit, and maybe you have
we went way backwards.
What do you mean?
Look at my screen.
Yeah.
The source injection is broken.
Right. Well, you see, when it said I removed the code to do with source, I was worried that that might be what happened.
Yeah.
You know, I think when we do the refactoring stuff, I think we need to go back to that version now again.
Yeah.
But then the refactoring should happen. We should say like propose refactoring ideas and sort of grade them, and then we pick which ones we want.
Yeah.
And again, those go into in the prompt until we can trust it to do stuff reliably. We have to baby it. And like as we get a better editor, I think we're going to be also able to better catch up in terms of functionality. So there's going to be like, once, let's say we had smart GPT capability here, right?
Yeah.
We probably would be able to skip a few of those. Or let's say we have a future version of this that has this kind of auto refactor and auto bug debugging bit. Then when we wanted to recapitulate the progress, if we're starting from that version of the software, we'd be able to do that a lot faster.
Yeah.
With a lot fewer steps.
Yeah.
So it's almost like the Git tree will tell us the real history of the project.
Yeah.
But at any given moment, we could decide to do like a refactor, at which point we, rerun through the main sort of prompts. And maybe we have like a prompt.yaml file in the repo, right? That tells you what are the major pebbles that we had to step over to get to this version.
Yeah.
I know you don't love it.
I'm really concerned. I'm concerned that our strategy here is reintroducing path dependency by another name. Right?
No, well, it's. I'll tell you. I think this is a fantastic point you're making, and here's how I see it. Our approach here is making path dependency explicit, right?
Yeah.
And once you have your actual path sort of laid out, you can modify it, which means you actually are not path dependent, weirdly enough, right? And you can get good at retreading your path, which means you're really not path dependent. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
By objectifying your path, no offense, you take control of it, right? Path dependency is when the path controls you.
Yeah.
Here we actually are turning the path into something that we can look at eye to eye and do operations on, like injecting steps and retreading it and improving our strategies so we can get back to where we are in fewer steps, right? You can look like if we had those prompts, we would actually be able to analyze this and make observations like, oh, it will be, if we had this automatic behavior, we will be able to get here in fewer steps, right? Maybe we can try to like merge 2 or 3 steps, right? Like let's say in the future we have a system that can do automatic planning, like we used to mess around with, remember?
Mm-hmm.
Then we can say like, okay, we'll take the first 5 commits, right? Or the first 5 sort of feature bags and do them in one step.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And if it's good enough and it's able to do the kind of the automatic decomposition and like yada yada yada, and put it all back together and like return it in a bundle, then your prompt YAML thing will just have one step for that, right? And again, our objective is that we delete that thing entirely, and we're like, here's your spec, do you figure it out. But I think the way we get there is by first recording the path we took, and then simplifying the path we took, and then auto-generating the path we took, so that then we don't have to think about the path we took.
Yeah.
So I want to sort of respond to the question of like, how long do you suppose the project will take? And I will say that I think the milestone that we are laser focused on is being able to do all of this with Git in the mix, right? So we want to be able to reflect with the LLM, which we can sort of do, right? We want to be able to launch in the browser, which we can sort of do. Well, no, we're rebuilding that functionality now. And then we want to be able to reflect this tree in the browser in GitHub. And this basically, this is something we used to do at Balena. Like I used to like be like, this is one of the top level models I had for how Balena worked. It was that we took a philosophical approach at integrating very powerful platforms, right? HTML is a very powerful platform. Git is a very powerful platform. LLMs are a very powerful platform, right? But they're not made to work with each other. They're just not. They're completely unaware, right? So the job becomes like, how exactly do I, create, like, find the seams between them and like link them up so elegantly that in the end it doesn't feel like a separate system. It feels like one, right?
Yeah.
And you have all sorts of impedance mismatch there, so designing your abstractions well is a very big deal. Which is why I like very much that our prompt is our a PR, and the kind of the tree here is the tree there. The fact that we are designing the abstractions in the 3 separate platforms so that they fit very well with each other. We're building an analogy, but it's not really reasoning by analogy. It's like we're building an executable analogy, so to speak. Does that make any sense? Or are you focusing on what you're doing there?
Sorry.
Yeah, don't worry. Do you think? Did you get a new version in? Is that what happened?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this here. Highlight fetches appropriately. I hope that the spawn. We should. So this is the test flow. Please use tailwind. Or what's the next thing? If we got spawn working, we want.
If we have spawn working,
well, we need to test spawn. So what's something that's not a waste that we can test?
Yeah.
Or I could actually just say, yeah. Please give me a minimal HTML page that shows hello world.
No. Wait. You didn't send that, did you?
I'm about to.
No. So I'm thinking like you can send it the code, and that will be great because we'll see if the code displays when we send it as well, right? The highlighting. Correct.
That wasn't the bug though. Oh, the highlight JS, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but say like ask it to propose you refactorings.
Okay. No highlight. HLJS is not defined.
Wait, you Yeah, so this is where I would go and find a CDN by myself and tell it like
No,
use
it
this.
properly fetched it this time. I'm looking at the network logs.
Yeah.
So the problem is,
But we still don't know if we have the latest version. We're relying on the LLM for like getting us the latest version of a library, which like we don't.
it doesn't matter if we don't have the latest version. We don't have access to any version. The bug is that HLJS is not defined. So something about the way it's importing it. Oh, hey, here we go. It just needed a minute or something. Something about its rendering pass.
Okay.
Separating the files. Enable authentication. Dumb. Template elements.
Refactor chatbox updates. That's the one I'm talking about.
Okay. Yeah, let's do. Please do 6. Let's do 5.
Well, can you copy the thing that you're telling it to do, because then otherwise it won't be in the prompt.
I'll just copy these
Yeah.
things into the chat log.
Okay, yeah.
Template elements. Let's look into that.
Oh, yeah, sorry. So do we have a line counts?
Yeah.
Okay. We have them twice. I see.
Well, it re-rendered this and it re-added the spawn button. So I think there's a bug in here.
Let's see if the refactoring fixes it.
Yeah.
But I think we should develop a prompt that does like checking bugs, offering suggestions for improvement, offering suggestions for refactoring. A few of those.
Yeah.
And I'm actually wondering if we should bring back in the game. Remember the terse JavaScript guide?
Oh yeah. I think
Anyway, so long story short, I think if we focus this week, by the end of the week, we should have the things that we are needing, that we're talking about, working decently well. I know we've said this before.
Yeah.
But it really does feel that by Friday we should be able to nail this. I don't know. How do you feel?
I'm a little more skeptical. For reasons I've already said, I'm willing to, I've voiced my concerns, and I still think that there's enough of a chance of it working that I'm willing to go at it.
So you would do it. You would do it differently.
Yeah, I think the way I would do it is, I don't know. It feels like there's a purism at play right now, right? Of getting into the self-hosting environment ASAP and only doing it linearly like that. And I guess maybe my intuition is to anticipate a lot of the workflows that we need and just, build them as a library, the old fashioned way, or the old fashioned way as of a month, or the old fashioned way as of now, which is, have ChatGPT help us build a library that does a lot of this functional stuff. Like, build a library that will do isomorphic Git and stitching together of code files into blob URLs and putting that in an iframe, right? Just the parts of the project that we can see as being, procedural and straightforward, that we could anticipate and design and build, and build each of those pieces.
Look, there's a middle path here where we use our this paradigm, to build those things, and then we add them in.
Yeah.
Because but why am I insisting on that? And the reason is that I actually want us to get good at doing this, right? Because we will fix our flow for doing this as we find the weaknesses. But I don't think there's anything wrong with like taking a sidebar, building something, and then using it.
Right.
Right. Again, it's the sort of thing that I expect in the future we will be removing as a workaround, right?
Yeah.
Like that when we go back and review our prompt history and we want to rerun it, we will just say like add a library that does this, right? And it'll do it. But for now, so long as we get there, and we're using this paradigm, sure.
Yeah.
So what happened now? It made the improvements theoretically.
Made the improvements. Now I got to test whether they work. I've observed. Oh God.
Okay, so the lines of code have not reduced at all.
Yes, and we've introduced a fucked up bug.
Which is?
Notice that. So it, instead of replacing the source inline, it added source as a new message.
Right. Should we start experimenting with how to tell it to give us only the functions that are changed?
Maybe. Okay, so it's lying, or it's just wrong, right? Because it says yes, the spawn button will be created on every HTML code block if you implement the necessary JavaScript code to add the button to each code block. Here's a simple.
Now it rendered it though. Before it had not rendered it, right?
No, the rendering thing has been fixed for a couple iterations. I'm saying the spawn button is not showing up on any of these.
Yeah. Okay, so just say like my code elements do not get spawn buttons. What?
Oh, that's interesting. The source template is the current HTML of the page, not the source code HTML of the page. So it's putting its entire chat history in there.
In where?
In the source template. When you do that / that regex looking source replace.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. It's scanning and injecting a DOM. So that's a problem.
That explains a lot, actually. So what do we do?
I think we got to go back.
I think we empty all the form buttons, all the form fields.
Empty all the form fields. What do you mean?
I think we've always had this problem. I think this is why we've had this massive 400-line file code files.
No. This problem only shows up when you do multiple back and forths. Because on the first message, the UI, nothing has changed yet, so it's already there.
That's what I'm saying, though. The problem always existed. We just haven't seen it because we don't tend to use source twice.
Right.
And what we need to do is the source thing needs to ignore the form fields, right? You don't want to get default values. You don't want to get this stuff. You don't that's not included with the thing. The default values as default are included, but not the actual values. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, so my sense is that we need to fix this problem.
Yeah.
And that we've always had it. We just don't have it
Yes. There's not really to a public comment. Okay, so it just completely shut the bed.
Yeah.
Do we want to roll back or just try and fix it from here? I think we actually have
to. Do we need to fix anything else? What were you trying to fix before?
Well, source templating isn't working. The spawn button isn't being approached. My GPT has gone off the rails radar is blaring at several hundred decibels right now. Is that we are way down a rabbit hole that we don't want to be down.
What is our temperature?
That's a good question. Unset. So it's whatever the default is.
Oh, I love the default. I think we should just use 0.2.
Okay.
Just kind of pin it down for code.
Okay. But so question remains, do we roll back and then go forward, or do we
that's how I would do it.
Yeah.
To the last known good version where everything worked. And attempt to roll forward.
We haven't had one of those yet today.
What do you mean? When we got here, when we went to the browser, it worked. And then you did one step, I think, and that step worked. Right?
No. First thing I did was modify it to have the entire history copied to the clipboard. That never worked. Spawn button hasn't worked yet. We got highlight.js working, but that was we've been in a bug fix loop that has been introducing more bugs.
Okay.
So
yeah, well, let's start over then. But this time we put highlight in there, so we bank that.
Yeah.
We continue. You see, this is what I mean that we can continually I mean, it's going to be a weird thing to do, but I think by continually renegotiating our path, right? We basically find a better path.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, the lines of code work too. So maybe we do highlight in lines of code.
Well, the problem is that those were, yeah, that's where we're at.
What do you mean?
I just reverted to that commit.
What commit?
The commit where we had just added highlighting and lines of code.
I see. And what about but there's features that never worked, you said?
The spawn button hasn't worked at all.
Have we added it? Are we there yet now?
We are at the commit where we have just added it, but it doesn't work.
Okay. And what about,
And
is that the
highlight
only thing
JS is now okay. So here's the thing that we fucked up, and I think we get ahead of our skis on this a lot, is that we think we can do multiple things at the same time. And we can say add this feature and this feature and this feature.
Yeah.
And it works some of the time, but it causes this problem where we don't. We can rescue a feature, but this other thing has gone so off the rails that we can't cherry pick it.
Right. And I think then I agree with you that we should do one feature at a time, or if we did two, like we kind of do it knowing what we're doing. But again, you see, like we're actually learning now by revisiting our path.
Right.
But the other thing I would say is we should sorry. We should work the prompt so that it returns only the functions it needs to, because that will potentially be a lot faster.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately it'll be in our favor to be faster, he said.
Let's modify this source prompt, actually. Please.
Before you send it, I think let's just do the standard stuff we used to do, like you're a world-class software engineer and answer, let's take the step-by-step stuff. Like, let's make a good, solid, like, write me some code prompt.
Yeah, that's where I was getting, actually.
Yeah. No, okay. I thought you might be.
Include the contents of the chat history.
Well, you should say it should not include any form field contents, right?
It should be prefixed with "You are a world class."
No. Sorry. I meant that for us to have a standard let's code thing, which includes source and you're a software engineer, and the the prefix suffix for any code we want written.
Yeah.
So go to the top basically before you say I am. Just go and say like you are a blah blah blah.
Shit.
Did you send it?
No.
IQ of 120.
Apparently, that's the sweet spot.
What? We have the right answer. What happened?
Highlight.js isn't working because we reverted. And source isn't working anymore. What the fuck?
No, wait. Highlight.js just took a bit of time.
This source templating.
Source isn't working. Yes.
Okay, it shat the bed.
Maybe we go further back, code-wise.
Oh no, this it didn't. It didn't actually go back. For some reason.
Well, that explains a lot.
Yeah. So, okay.
Well, I feel better actually.
Spawn button doesn't do anything, but at least the source is templating appropriately. Okay, got it. Good. Okay, I have to ask how to do a thing. Do I create a Come on, give me a one-liner. Why are there multiple steps? Here we go.
There are multiple one-liners, which I guess makes it a multi-liner.
Got it. Okay. All right.
Can you, for the sake of it, sort of use some sort of numbering to know how far we are?
How do you mean?
Like how many steps in are we now? Is this the code we took from ChatGPT, or has it had 1 or 2 steps?
It's had
on
2.
It? Okay.
We are actually it's had 3.
Okay, that's great. And so we backstepped what, a couple of steps?
Yeah.
Okay. That's not that bad. That's not so bad.
Spawn doesn't work. Highlight. Oh God. Oh, maybe Spawn actually does work.
Yeah. So you see, this is interesting because the question now is, do we go back when we added this and modify the prompt to add it better? Because it's like we didn't specify basically where the frame should be built, and it's making it inside the chat frame rather than whatever. It doesn't matter. Just fix it here.
Okay. Um,
Can you take that prompt and just have the guts of it? Not the guts of it, actually, somewhere, so you can just paste that in whenever you want.
Yeah.
It's in the text area.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so now we're retracing our steps slowly, making sure that the stuff works. I think, yeah, over time as we build this out, right? Again, all of these things should be handled automatically, and we kind of know how to do it. Like, there's a testing element. There's the, like, yeah. Well, basically, again, remember that whole like 3 stages bit. Like
Mm-hmm.
all of that bit should be built into a mode here that
Yeah.
can do that in the background. Basically, it's like you want to load it up, automatically test it, find any errors, send them back, do it again. Like it just keep looping through until you can know that it works, and then you move on. Basically,
Yeah.
oh, here's something that would help. If we used 3.5 for test responses, we wouldn't worry as much.
For test responses, what do you mean?
Like, I think the reason I don't like you saying like, "Hey, print me some code so I can blah blah blah," right, is because I worry about the tokens on 4 running out.
That's nothing.
What's nothing?
I mean, a hello world token is. I mean, I would have reset the state after a test response like that. Just refresh the page. I just want to perform the test.
Okay.
Okay.
Still not giving us code lines.
See what?
Lines of code I don't see.
It's doing it on. That's the thing. So we've got this bug where spawn and lines like the spawn button as well as lines of code are only appearing on my messages.
You know what you should say? They're appearing on my messages. Please make sure all messages are rendered with the same logic and have access to the same features.
What the fuck?
What?
The spawn button appeared as well as the lines of code. So there's something about the rendering pass. It's like it's running, it's like scanning and injecting this shit. That's what it's doing. Every time I press enter, it does a scan and injects these buttons and the lines of code stuff. So that's why the first one now has 2 and the last one now has 1.
Right. Yeah, and instead it should be on message append,
Yeah.
and only for the message append. By the way, a gimme is to remove the title up top. It's subtractive progress.
Yeah. But it's also subtractive progress that at the present pace of development, it was going to cost us 5 minutes that I don't want to spend on it.
Fair. Oh, you know something you can do?
What's that?
You can write simulated prompts and then just do it.
Right. What do you mean?
Just write, like, remove the top thing and then remove it.
Oh, sure.
Anyway, something happened.
Yeah.
I see a 400 something.
400 something?
Maybe it's old. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think this is the bottom of the gravity well. Like, this is the hardest it's ever going to be to make progress.
Yeah.
And pretty much anything we do now should help. Here's an idea. Every time we get some new code, before we do anything, like, we just say, can you check for bugs?
Yeah.
Or maybe you can reach. Do you remember the piece of code you had that was like, you are an expert, blah blah blah, from our standard prompts?
From back in the day?
Mm-hmm.
I don't recall it off the top of my head. Like, you're an expert debugger. That one?
Yeah.
I don't recall exactly the wording.
No, but you have access to Google Docs with.
That's true.
Anyway, did it give you back the thing?
No, not yet.
Well, in that case, okay. So for anybody just watching, what we're doing is we're writing a ChatGPT UI client. Why are we doing that? what the client we're writing has this magical property whereby it is able to modify itself with a natural language prompt given to the LLM. So this is not a feature that exists in any other one of these. So the code that we are using right now, even to talk to ChatGPT, has been written by ChatGPT. And we're sort of continuing that path where we sort of build steps. We are also recording every prompt we're using so that we can potentially retrace our steps in the future. And what we're headed towards right now is to not only be able to modify the code, but also run it in the same page and continue working from the updated interface, should we wish to. And that will give us a much faster cycle time, it is hoped.
Yes.
So right now we've got a new version back, which Ryan is committing to Git, and then he will launch it, and we will see the chat area there empty out, and we will be ready to test.
Okay. Is review for bugs.
Just heads up, when I was saying review for bugs, it would have been before when we gave us the.
Yeah, I was bundling a test.
I hear you.
Work. Okay, so it shows me spawn and lines of code.
How many lines of code?
165.
Okay, so still we haven't added anything in terms of lines, I think, which is good.
The iframe still broken.
Yeah.
And empty. Empty now. Completely empty.
Yep. The spawn button is on both.
Nope. Well, we don't know yet. We're not going to know until we get something back.
Well, no, that was supposed to be fixed, right? The spawn button. It said like I made.
Yeah, it said it fixed it, but I'm looking at some fairly compelling evidence that says it didn't.
No, sorry. Also, the line numbers were supposed to be fixed, correct?
Lines of code?
Yeah.
Okay, so here, this is interesting. When you ask it to like refactor, it just deletes a fuck ton of code without recognizing that it's useful.
Yeah. No, I would. Yeah. So let's refresh the page, and instead of saying refactor, say, tell me what you want to do.
No, I did that. That's what my prompt was. Please review for bugs and suggest refactorings.
Okay.
It did it, but it's fine. We don't have to take it.
I see. Did it find any bugs?
Nope. And spawn is still broken. Okay, so spawn is broken. Let's try and just get fucking spawn to work.
Let's take our standard coding prompt.
Yep.
Yeah, just say like this. The spawn button should create an iframe on the
Here's what it should do. Create an iframe at the bottom of the page is clean with populate an iframe with the current HTML with the HTML inside the associated code block.
No, with the code content of the associated code block. Code, yeah, not with the HTML value because.
Oh, with the. Actually, I think that's what's getting fucked up here.
Yeah.
Is that we've got highlight.js and Showdown doing this markdown stuff to actually render the HTML code. Whereas before, when we didn't have that, it was literally just one pre-tag that just had the HTML in it.
I don't think they add elements. The pre-tab is Showdown. Sorry to ruin your day.
Well, yeah. Yeah. So here's the code tag. That's fine. But I think that's what I'm saying. Highlight.js is going to do some shit to this. You see the inspect
Mm-hmm.
for the code class right now. So when a message comes in based on whatever the flow is, highlight.js is going to rewrite this inner HTML somehow.
Got it. And there's no way to so that's fine. Maybe highlight.js has a way to.
No, I mean the solution to this is to stick the raw HTML into a data attribute on the code element.
But doesn't it do that already? Maybe.
No.
How do you know?
Because I'm looking at it and it doesn't have it.
Well, maybe there's a feature to do that.
What feature?
In highlight.js.
Maybe. I don't see why though. Like that seems like outside of the scope of what highlight.js would care about. Its job is to take an HTML string and give it to you formatted.
Well, it very well might be that it doesn't want to butcher your stuff without,
I think the implication would be is that if you hand something to highlight.js, all you care about is visualization, and if you care about the actual value of it, you should be dealing with that up the chain. Yeah. So here we go. So now we've got our stuff, and yeah, it's got all the HL.js tags in it. Okay. I guess we'll give it a shot. Ah, fuck! Sorry.
What happened?
I hit my left arrow on the browser and I fucking lost it.
Yikes.
Is it still in my... Oh, I preserved my network log. Okay. I'll find it. Completions. Oh, come on. Come on. I gotten that to the clipboard at least? Spawn button is not. What did we say?
What do you mean? Sorry, I'm just researching the. I'm researching Highlight.js now, so I can give you some interesting feedback when you need it. Are you hearing noise on my end?
A little bit, but it's fine.
Yeah.
I might need to call it before too long.
Yep. I mean, I've got 20 minutes max, but I can also call it earlier.
Yeah.
Because the situation here is getting
Fraught.
Out of control.
Yeah, I need to take a step back for my sanity at this because it's something's not clicking with this approach right now for me. I can't. Maybe it's just the delay that is just like turning me brain dead.
Sorry, I've gone out of the. Should I come back and we can sort of talk about it?
Yeah, give me 1 second. Okay, spawn is completely busted. Still, for some reason.
We didn't do the right thing, right? Just to be clear, we did still try to skip in the middle and save it. Something that started wrong, right?
Right.
Deep breath.
Yeah.
What we need to do is go to the prompt that introduced spawn wrongly
Right.
and rewrite look. We know already that if it misunderstands you and it starts doing weird shit, unless it is a superficial error, it will be very hard to fix.
Yeah.
So I think the cause for the mess here is that we tried to skip a step and we lost.
Yeah. Well, but the problem is that we are in an environment where our choice is either to rewind and obliterate all intermediary progress on other things.
The question is, why did we do progress on other things without confirming that the thing that we were supposed to do works?
Yeah, that's true.
Right? That should never have happened. Like, if we need to add modes first, so we have 3.5 and we can do some quick tests, that's probably worth it.
I don't think we need modes to do the tests. I think I can just tell it to output a hello world and do it and either say good or not good.
My last argument for why to add a mode is to the fact that it will, even if we don't care about like wasting tokens, it's just a lot faster.
Yeah.
But anyway.
I mean, it's negligible for this though. Like this came back in 2 seconds.
Okay. I like it's not. This is not worth arguing about. So let's keep going.
Yeah. All right.
So this is broken. Can we go back to the prompt that introduced, like the code and the prompt that introduced spawn?
Okay. We're at this juncture. So the copy of entire message history to the clipboard was the first one we did. That never worked, but we've just sort of been ignoring it and not using it. The very next one was the introduction of the spawn button. So we were basically back at where we started, given time constraints. And I am tempted to just call this a wash and come at it with fresh eyes tomorrow.
Okay,
if that's all right with you.
That's fine. Just send me a link with your chat history in case I have a like.
I'll just push all refs to GitHub because that's where the chat history is. It's in the Git log. So
What? No, I'm talking about the share link from ChatGPT.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's our starting point right now, right?
Right. Let me find it. Okay. Copy link.
I mean, the other thing we can do is to, you know what? Actually, that's probably what we should do. We should continue in ChatGPT for a while. I think we're jumping out too quickly.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Do we have the sort of visualize HTML bit? Do you have any code that does that and works? So we can test inside ChatGPT?
Oh, like Violent Monkey user script for it?
Yeah.
I think you had the cleanest one, the most recent good version.
Yeah. Okay, I can fetch it. But basically, yeah. So my temptation is to take that link if you send it to me on Signal or something, and
it's in I just sent it to you within Streamlabs.
I don't see it.
If you click the chat button on the top right,
there's a private. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, from there, like, I mean, the first thing I'm tempted to do from there is to just add highlight because that works. Um, remind me again why. Oh, right. Yes. Well, you know what we want, right? Can we like quickly like go and like sniff around the ChatGPT code base to figure out what the hell they're using for their code highlighting? Because the thing that we
I mean, the
want is the
UI.
copy button, right? Like answer me this: why don't they have that problem? Right? Copy works fine for them.
I'm sure they're setting it as a data attribute.
Oh! I wait. No, because we. So if you don't take inner HTML and you take inner text or some other element, does that maybe fix the
Yeah, you can
problem?
get text content. Will give you just the text and not any
Okay,
HTML.
so that's the solution to that.
Yeah.
Okay, so problem solved. We'll say Spawn should use text content, basically.
Yeah. If that's the actual source of the bug that we were like, I mean, Spawn was working fine yesterday. The way we introduced it today just got it broken for some reason.
I mean, look, there's just probabilistic reasons why that happens, right? As well.
Yeah.
And I think also just leaving the temperature random rather than like manual was a big error.
Yeah.
So I think for tomorrow, the first look, if it was me, I would say we add highlight, we add temperature, and we add model drop down. And why not tokens? Fuck it. Whatever. Like those were moves to save lines that did not need to be saved.
Yeah.
Like we followed the wrong tech tree trajectory. Let's call it.
Yeah.
I think those particular things increase our control over the model, and in doing so, they help us like continue to work if we want to work there, right? The other question is whether we want to do it through ChatGPT and for a while longer. Anyway, okay, let's park it today. I think definitely like we built a paradigm. Do you want to talk at all about the paradigm itself, or shall we just park it? You're just gonna go and have a fit of rage.
I'm gonna have a fit of eating burritos. I think I'm gonna drown my sorrows in some good Mexican food.
That said, I think the easy solution is to just continue inside ChatGPT because we have the history there.
Yeah.
Right, and we can do the thing that we should be doing, which is go back and edit the right prompt.
Yeah, that's
right.
The thing, yeah, and so without needing to like manually do that, that's I think the thing is like making a decision about a formalism of workflow before we're sure that workflow works is a path to sadness, right? Because then we get caught up in, then we're spending a bunch of time dedicated to a workflow that
I think if I'm like, I think this is a worthwhile observation that I'm about to make, but like you never know how much you can chew, how much you bite off.
Yeah.
Right. Because we're like, okay, let's self-host quickly, right? Because hey, it looks great, it works, right? So let's self-host.
Yeah.
But it turns out that self-hosting too early, what we learned today, is a path of sadness, right? Without enough sort of core functionality, you start to get into weird rabbit holes. And that's not to say that what we are doing is not gonna like pay off. But yeah, I think this, it's the same idea as like prompting too much. That's why I'm saying it's worthwhile. It's an interesting pattern of like you don't want to eat you don't want your bites to be too small, but that's natural, right? We want to just bite a bunch. But what we're learning is also that you don't want your bytes to be too big. Now, the thing is, you don't like you want a right size, right? You also don't want to be too conservative. Yeah, I think we're just gonna have to keep learning these lessons. I think this is stuff that is super valuable because ultimately we're learning the paradigm. But yeah, today we definitely didn't make that much progress. I think tomorrow, if we want to make progress, we got to start earlier.
Yeah.
Just my 2 cents. Okay, sir.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd love to do it myself. I mean, honestly, if we do ChatGPT tomorrow, I can be the one starting the experimentation on my machine, so you can get a rest and then maybe take over. Oh, okay. One thing, if you get a minute at any point in time, you can. Well, first of all, you can make progress inside ChatGPT. If you've got more time to work, you can totally just do that later. But the other one is like you can then put all of these in the Git repo and push them up to the point where we know it works.
Sure.
Right. That all of that stuff goes in the bank. The question is, what do we do from there onwards? But as much progress as you can in ChatGPT, plus putting all of that in Git is all clear.
Cool.
Okay, sir. Talk tomorrow. Have a good one.
You too.
Have a rest.
You as well.
Bye, everybody. Thank you for hanging out with us.